Welcome to my favorite queen sacrifice of all time by my favorite chess player of all time. Tigran Petrosian is my favorite chess player of all time because of his story. So he was an orphan at age 8 and was forced to swipe streets. As an orphan, he had a very difficult childhood, and in 1963 he became the world chess champion. So he really started from humble beginnings up until the top of the chess ladder. And this is his second World Chess Championship match against, you may know him, Boris Spassky, who played against Bobby Fischer in 1972. This happened in 1966, 6 years prior, in which Boris Spassky challenges Tigran Petrosian for his crown. Petrosian has won his crown 3 years earlier in 1963. So this is game 10 in their match, and so far in their match, Spassky has won 0 games out of the first 10. And Petrosian has only won 1, and the rest were draws. So you can imagine how much Boris Spassky wanted a win here. And so we start off with the game. Tigran started with one knight f3, which is the ready opening, and his opponent went with knight f6. g3, trying to develop the bishop in a fianchetto. g6, some bit of copycat until we see the English opening. So c4 is kind of like an English route to the ready, in which white plays this bishop pawn. So bishop g7, and here is already a really crucial moment. You see, Petrosian started out with knight f3, which is already for him a rare choice, getting Boris Spassky out of his comfort zone. But Spassky replies with this opening, bishop g7, which is known as a King's Indian setup, which is also known to be very sharp and promoting aggressive play, which, spoiler alert, will be pretty much the last two-thirds of this game. Petrosian goes bishop g2, castles, and castles. And now, there are different setups that black can take. So d6, e5 is very common. Also the symmetrical English, c5, knight c6. But here Spassky chooses knight c6 first. So no c5 first. And this is very, very rare. Even till this day, we're down to like only a few hundred games after only 5 moves. Petrosian plays knight c3, and now Spassky goes d6. We're back into some main lines. You see, d6, knight c6 is fairly common. Just knight c6 first is a rare choice. Petrosian goes with d4, and now a6, d5 attacking the knight, knight a5, knight d2 defending the pawn. If you defend with b3, this opens up a very nice diagonal for the opposite bishop on these unprotected squares, so it's pretty risky. Knight d2 is more principled. And now c5 is what Spassky chose, queen c2, and e5. And this is the first of 3 critical moments in this game in which Spassky chooses a super rare move. After e5, we are down to a dozen games in the database of all time this has been played. And just to be very simple, this is a rare move because logically you don't want to cover your fianchettoed bishop. This bishop is acted best on a super open diagonal, and this kind of prohibits that. So Petrosian goes b3, he wants to develop his bishop, and now Spassky comes out with some very nice prep, knight g4. Very fresh idea. He wants to bring a landslide of pawns on the king side and play f5 next. And if you go h3, then just knight h6, and black will still be able to go through with their plan. So here, Petrosian wants to kick the knight, almost at all costs. But first, he plays e4, sinking in a pawn in the center, and also kind of refuting some f5 ideas, because when Boris Spassky plays f5, he can now swap pawns, and this king is a bit more vulnerable than 2 moves ago. This is a big factor for this game. And now Petrosian really wants to kick this knight. But if he plays f3 here, there's knight e3 forking the queen and rook, winning in exchange. And if h3, knight here or knight here, and I guess he didn't want this. So he goes with this idea, knight d1. Kind of so objectively, he should have played bishop b2 first, because after b5 by Spassky pressuring the pawn chain, now Petrosian goes f3, kicking the knight while taking up this e3 square with his previous move. Spassky now can punish this with e4, which is what he plays, attacking this rook. So Petrosian blocks and defends right on time, but there's also this huge scramble in the part of the board in which it's just super complex now. So Spassky trades here, takes back, and now swaps here, and queen takes. And now he plays knight e5, attacking this bishop, and gives this bishop a huge question for Petrosian. Where does he want to bring his bishop back, g2 or e2? If he goes back to g2, the normal square for the bishop would be finqueroed again. This bishop would be hitting its own pawn and not with a big future. So instead, Petrosian plays the game-changing bishop e2, defending also against the pressure here, but also pressuring and attacking this b5 pawn. And so now Spassky doesn't care about this attack and goes with pawn to f4. And this is our second critical moment of the game. With pawn f4, he is really playing aggressive. Like, he's opening up his bishop, he's opening up his king, which is already opened up even more by taking out another defender of the king, right, with the pawn. And the queen is now opened up here, and suddenly the black pieces are looking pretty dangerous. So Petrosian has a choice. This is a pawn sacrifice. It's a pretty critical moment in the game. He can either take with the rook or the pawn. So if Petrosian takes with the rook, I believe this is the best move. Petrosian didn't like takes, and now knight g6. And it's very hard to defend this pawn. In fact, it's impossible. But looking beyond that and playing knight e4 was the best way for white and a winning advantage. Instead, after f4, Petrosian takes back with the pawn first. And this is not the best move, but it's the most tricky move by far. If the knight moves back, Petrosian has a better advantage than if he would have taken with the rook. So Spassky replies with bishop h3, which is the best move. He's attacking this rook. But now Petrosian keeps on with his trickiness. He doesn't take this knight, because then bishop takes, but he plays knight e3 instead. Just like, what? Brilliance. Brilliance in the sense of the word. Sacrificing the exchange. But this is Petrosian's idea. By the way, the best move here for Spassky in reply is not caring about his knight that's en prise, and not caring about this rook that's en prise, but sacrificing this rook here. And after rook takes, he just wins the pawn back with queen g5 and queen takes rook. But instead, he committed one of the 7 sins in life and in chess. Bishop takes rook. The greed. The greed to take this rook. So now, Petrosian has the advantage and gets to execute his idea with knight e3. He takes back this bishop, so he sacrifices in exchange for the pawn, right? This f4 pawn, and good play against a weak king, and tempo against this knight, forcing this knight to move, which gives white what we call the initiative. So after knight g6, now Petrosian can activate his bishop that he very coherently placed on e2 on g4, threatening bishop e6 with some mating nets on this king. Some really nice threats to not only win back the exchange, but have a pawn up and basically win the game, because this king is so much weaker than our king. So Spassky needs to play queen f6 to try to trade queens immediately here. This is the only way to hope for a draw. It's already that losing. And instead he plays a blunder. Knight takes f4. So he takes back the pawn, full exchange up, but it's a bit too little too late, and perhaps he missed Petrosian's idea in this position. I'm sure you can find it just intuitively, because that's the aura that this game brings out. Rook takes f4. A second brilliant move, sacrificing a second exchange. He is taking out the defender of the e6 square, so that after rook takes f4, now bishop e6 check. If the king moves here, it's over. So queen h8 check, king here, queen takes, king back, queen check, king up, and now queen g5 picks up the rook. And if rook here, queen here, check, king here, and then knight e4. And this is completely over. Or I think there's easier. Knight check, king here, checkmate. Or if king here, there's check, king here, checkmate. Or this and mate. So quite spectacular stuff, which is why Spassky is forced to bring his rook down and defend passively, blocking but self-pinning his rook. Petrosian responds with knight e4. Quiet move, because Petrosian has the pieces, and the value of his pieces are so much greater than the value of his opponent's pieces, and that's what you should take away from this game. Although Black has the more material in terms of the numbers, Black's pieces are not effective. I'm looking at u2, knight on the edge of the board and rook on a8, compared to Petrosian's active pieces, a knight in the center of the board, looking on to everywhere, and a bishop pinning this rook to the king, and a queen activated along the long diagonal. All these are factors that make Petrosian's pieces so much better than his opponent's pieces, so much so that he can be 2 exchanges down and still be completely winning in this position. Quite crazy. Also, this weak king extremely helps. So Spassky goes for the active queen h4, attacking this knight, and now knight takes d6 is what he's met with. After queen g5 check, king moves to the side, and rook a7 to defend this rook. Petrosian plays my favorite queen sacrifice of all time. He first takes the exchange with bishop takes f7 check. After rook takes, now Petrosian plays one of my favorite moves of all time, because it's in a World Chess Championship match, because he's my favorite player, and because of its eternal beauty. Here Petrosian plays the game-ending queen h8 check. It's beautiful. It's an absolute masterpiece by the Armenian grandmaster, sacrificing a queen for the simple effect of deflecting the king off the defense of this rook and decoying to the wrong square. And after knight takes, we not only take a rook worth 5 points, but we would be forking the king and queen and winning the queen on the next move worth 9 points. These 2 moves are worth plus 14 points, which is extremely rare, not only in chess, but at the grandmaster level. After queen h8, his opponent had to resign, and Petrosian went on to win that World Championship match, retaining his title for 3 more years. 10 years earlier, Tigran Petrosian had the exact same tactic against Vladimir Simagin. And in this position, Petrosian played queen a8 check, his opponent played king g7, and now Petrosian played bishop takes e5, sacrificing the bishop, and in so forking the queen and king. And after the queen is lured to this forbidden square of e5, Petrosian laid out queen h8 10 years prior. Little did he know this would help him win a world championship match 10 years later. Because this is a skewer, so if king moves, then we just take the queen, but if king takes, we take this rook, and once again, the same 14 points of material in 2 moves. Thanks for watching. Like and sub for more.